Welcome to Baby Boomer Tales. My name is Jim. You can find us at babyboomertales.com. Once you've landed on our webpage, there are links to where you can listen to our podcast, a link to our Facebook page, our LinkedIn page, our Twitter page, or X page it is now. Also, there's links to our Boomers General Store and our Shop Tales at Amazon. Labor Day has come and gone. It's now fall in my little old home county back there in the north central Colorado Rocky Mountains. Right about Labor Day, you start seeing frost, and the days start getting cooler and cooler. They never get too warm anyway up there, 8,000 feet above sea level. 9 months of winter, that used to be the joke when I lived there, 9 months of winter. It could snow on any given day, winter, spring, summer, and fall. It's a beautiful place though, and there's times I miss it very, very much. This is our 4th edition of promoting a podcast on our Baby Boomer Tales podcast journey. The first one was episode 70. I was just into this podcast about a year and a quarter, and we did the first one, talked about how I came to start doing a podcast, all the things I had to learn and acquire, including making my own webpage. It was quite the journey and quite the leap of faith, really, for me. I had never done anything quite like that before. The second one was a year and a half later, episode 149. I just expounded on how things had been going since I had done the very first episode. 2 years after that, episode 253, and now almost 2 years after that one, we are here for part 4, episode 345. So I've been doing these podcasts for over 6 years. We'll celebrate our 7th anniversary in February. It started out as stories. I always thought that I had all these stories rolling around in me and I needed an avenue to tell them. Henceforth, a podcast. Well, stories are harder and harder for me to come by anymore. My time growing up there in Colorado. I even went up to my little hometown, up that county, took a bunch of pictures, walked up and down Main Street, clicking pictures of storefronts, clicked pictures of the Colorado River, of old Abe Lincoln. That is a rock formation up in the mountains. These mountains look like Abe laying there, just as peaceful as could be. Took pictures of the lakes and all kinds of stuff up there. And that really didn't help kickstart my memory. Every once in a while I think of something and I'll talk about it. But I've had to kind of reinvent myself on this to keep it going. I don't want to quit just because I've run out of my original idea. But I have things like the Song of the Week that I try to do almost every episode. Either the Song of the Week, or now I do the top 10 in a certain year. This time I'm going to do 1965 here in just a second. But it started out the top 10 55 years ago, and that would be, if I was to do it today, it'd be this week in 1970. But more and more of the songs I was noticing I didn't really like. They were building up to disco. By 1970, 6 or 7, there's so much disco I didn't even recognize popular music. And if you're a listener of this podcast at all, you know I did not like disco, period. But so I'm doing for this year, once or twice a month I'll do a year in the 60s. And so right now we're going to do the top 10 in 1965. Number 10, Help by the Beatles. Number 9, My Girl, The Temptations. Number 8, I Feel Fine, The Beatles. Number 7, Come See About Me, The Supremes. Number 6, I Can't Get No Satisfaction, The Rolling Stones. Number 5, Petula Clark sings Downtown. Number 4, by the Four Tops, I Can't Help Myself. Number 3, Mrs. Brown, You've Got a Lovely Daughter, Herman's Hermits. Number 2, Wooly Bully, Sam the Sham and the Pharaohs. And the number 1 song for the year 1965 by the Righteous Brothers, You've Lost That Lovin' Feeling. Music is a big part of my podcast. When I do Song of the Week, I usually tell a little history about it, some unknown fact or little known fact, where it ended up in the Billboard Hot 100, things like that, who wrote the song, maybe something about a couple of the band members. But I needed more than just talking about my little home county up there in Colorado and music of the 60s and 70s. So I had to invent some stuff. And what prompted me to start inventing characters was when I was a boy, my dad would listen to a morning radio show called Pete Smythe's General Store. It was all about this guy sitting there in his general store, maybe by the potbelly stove, and people come in and yak with him a little. And so I invented things like Kate's General Store. That was strictly inspired by Pete Smythe's General Store. And in Kate's General Store, there's a lot of my history in there. Homer Cates, I had a great uncle named Homer. I also had a dog named Homer. And so Homer Cates is the star of the show. His family and his wife's family, they came from, North Carolina and Indiana, places my family on my dad's side came from. There's also a new character, he's fairly new, a 3 years now I guess, named Gator Earl, and he bought Apple's Cafe. And I just wanted to hone in on Apple's Cafe. 3 of the regulars there are Jim, Sam, and Bud. Jim and Sam were my uncles. Bud was a man I worked for back when I was about 21 years old back in that little town. And Apple's Cafe, the owners were Bob and Kelly. That is the takeoff of a restaurant there in my hometown that Bob and Kelly owned. Well, when they sold their restaurant, the people that bought it renamed it to the Red Apple. When I first started doing Kate's General Store and I was talking about Apple's Cafe, I thought for some reason in my mind that Bob and Kelly's restaurant had a picture of an apple on their sign. I don't think that was the case. I think the people that bought it from Bob and Kelly with the red apple had the picture of the apple. But henceforth, Apple's Cafe and Bob and Kelly in the past year have sold that restaurant to Gator Earl. If you followed it at all, Gator Earl just got himself engaged to Allie. Now, I have a daughter named Allie, and I like to name things after people I know and all that stuff, but not always. But so, Gator Earl's real name is Earl Gator, and everyone just called him Gator Earl. Well, Allie's real name will be, after her marriage, Allie Gator. I can't hardly wait for that big event to happen here on the podcast. You know, we've done this every Wednesday since February of 2019. I mentioned February of 2019 before. But 345 episodes. I'm a big statistics nerd. You probably saw that here a couple weeks ago. I got too involved and I sounded like old Mr. Stevenson, my math teacher that write everything on the board in great detail, and that's kind of what I was doing to y'all, breaking some numbers down. Well, anyway, from all the thousands and thousands and thousands of downloads we've had, we average 4 episodes per every person. So if you sit down and listen, usually they average about 15 minutes. So that's an hour's worth of listening. I thought that was quite fascinating. 4 downloads per person listening at the time. We started only getting maybe just a few downloads a day when we first started in 2019. And then it grew and it grew and it grew. And last year it seemed to peak, and towards the end of the year it slowed down a little. And I didn't think much of it, but going into 2025, it still was a little slow. And I almost became concerned. But all of a sudden, here in the last couple months, she's picked back up, and I'm doing okay. And I always appreciate all of you that listen to this podcast. And I would appreciate it if you enjoy it. Tell your friends and your family and your neighbors. We really do no advertising. We try to finance this podcast by our Boomers General Store. We also have our shop tells at Amazon, and you get on there and you buy something, we get a small percentage of it. And we do have a page where you can pledge so much a month. So I really do appreciate all your love and your support and your faithfulness. We try to start each and every podcast and end it with music. Sometimes in the middle of the episode we'll play a little music too. We own about 24 songs, own the licensing and copyrights to those songs. And that's not cheap for us, but I think the 24, I haven't bought a new song in couple years now, so I must be happy with what we have. I try not to overwhelm you with the music, but I try to have fun with it. You know, music's a big part of the baby boomer generation. I do believe we changed music for the better. And it wasn't bad when we came in. The big band era was some wonderful stuff. And then rock and roll kind of started when we were little, and we took it to a whole nother level. I'm glad I'm a baby boomer. I don't mind growing old, not even one little bit. I count it a privilege. I know I won't be here forever. None of us ever are. But what we do with our life and how we put our trademark on whatever it is we're into shows our character. So let kindness be part of that trademark of yours. It'll be a lasting good thing. Whenever anybody says, I remember old Jim, or I remember old Tom, or I remember old Mary, whoever you are, a smile and a gentle way about you could surely help someone that needs that. I'll be back next Wednesday. That's my plan. Peace out.